emotions that usually encompassate insecurity, feeling of low self-worth, insufficiency, inadequacy, anger, even aggression. It can be verbal or unfortunately even physical. Suspicion, we are always suspicious about something. Distrust, self-pity, helplessness, disgust. So many basic feelings are incompensated. And that's why it's very hard to recognize that we are jealous. And that is why we are opening this topic tonight, because we want to help you identify times when you are jealous, because it's a very low frequency and because it's not the same as love. In our culture, at least, jealousy does not equal love. So once we, if we don't identify the place where these feelings are coming from, if we don't identify that we are jealous, we will not be able to do anything about it. And usually what it comes to is having bad relationships or ending it. So that's
right.
just, you know, a little bit
like a definition. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. I think you mentioned one very important fact in what your introduction about jealousy. You said jealousy is not love. And that is true. That is true for, I would say, Western culture. And jealousy definitely is not openly expressed. Not in Europe, not in America, definitely not in New York. We try to mask it. We try to pretend that we feel different feelings when the base is actually jealousy. And we will go back to it, and you will tell us more about where does jealousy really come from? What is the source of jealousy? But I would, before that, most of our viewers know that Egypt is an inspiration for me, and many of my programs were kind of created or conceived in Egypt. Therefore, even this topic reminds me, because when I travel to Egypt, I frequently hear people identifying jealousy with love. And first of all, it comes as a shocker for me that people are so open to express jealousy, and even a little bit proud of it, because there is this underlying tone thinking that, or almost saying that, as much as I'm jealous, that much I am connected, or that much I love this person. And that always kind of feel makes me feel takes my breath away, honestly, to first of all be that open and say, I mean, honesty is very good, but to also identify the quantity, the amount of jealousy and say that equals love, definitely is a shocker. So I would like you to kind of answer these two questions. Where does jealousy come from, and that connection that I just made, please.
Okay. We can look at the source of jealousy from 2 points, from 2 standpoints. One is historical and evolutionary mechanism that we as humans developed once we became more conscious as a society. So all of the states of mind that we identify as complex feelings, and those complex feelings are something that animals usually do not express, or they do express if they live with humans, right? So they learn it from humans. We developed, because we are social creatures, we are social entities, and unlike, let's say, guilt or shame, which are developed so that we will protect ourselves from being expelled from society. So feeling of guilt or shame, we developed as humans, so we'll be sensitive to others' needs, and so we will know when our behavior is not accepted. We feel guilty or shameful, and we correct our behavior in order not to be expelled from society, from group, because as we know, we're not very adept to living alone in wilderness, unlike other species. And then jealousy is the other way around. We develop jealousy evolutionarily, so we will protect our own rights. So jealousy is a mechanism that we developed to protect what we believe belongs to our rightfully. But in this case, we will say that jealousy is something that is not good for us, because we will identify the difference between jealousy as something that is irrational and standing for oneself. You know, when you are truly betrayed or manipulated, then if you are betrayed, manipulated, cheated on, you're not really jealous, you're just being rightful, you're being reasonable. You're saying, I will not tolerate it, this is not right. So we will say that jealousy is something that compensates irrational feelings, suspicions, that we feel that there's something there that it isn't, because we feel insecure, because we feel low self-worth, because we feel distrust, because we have previous trauma, so forth and so on.
Right. Right. Beautiful. Thank you. Thank you for establishing that, so we know where, or from what perspective are we working on. So would you say that, first of all, how do we recognize jealousy and how do we express it? That would be like my next question to you. But you mentioned boundaries, and just before we started this conversation, Marijana, you were mentioning something very important about boundaries. And in connection to jealousy, would you please tell us a little bit more about it, because that was beautiful.
Thank you. First of all, I want to thank you for connecting us all together in your sacred space, and I really appreciate the invitation for such a huge topic. As Aleksandra mentioned, it's so complex, and we get to see it everywhere around us and within us in our lives all the time. But what is really important when it comes to relationships specifically is that we rarely express it out loud. We rarely say, I'm jealous. And this is what a lot of us who work with people, when people come and express different emotions, the set of complex emotions that Aleksandra was describing, they never actually understand that the jealousy lies beneath all of those. And it's about bringing to our conscious attention, cognitively understanding what jealousy is for us, how we perceive jealousy in our lives. And this is where I would start from, you know, how do we in our lives at all think about jealousy, whether it's some sort of emotion that occurs sometimes, whether we have lived with it for our whole of our lives, whether we have a chronic feeling of being jealous, or we react to situations in a jealous manner. And when we establish those kind of perspectives upon where we stand now, then we can go on and create further the expression of jealousy in our lives through the boundaries we create. And this is where we will talk about later on the boundaries in relationships, how and why it's important to set them. So I would just add on to Aleksandra's talk about the actual expression of jealousy and how deceptive it is, because it really hides between a lot of different defense mechanisms. We all use the defense mechanisms like the projection, like the passive aggression. A lot of these things that we are unaware are actually stemming from this feeling. And this is why we are talking today about this, how important it is to name it. So the first step would be actually to recognize, to name the emotion, to recognize that it exists within each person on the planet. Because as Aleksandra said, this is the evolutionary, we are passed on through genes, we have passed on this emotion because of the protection of self and the protection of our species. Because when we read about jealousy, we stumble upon the fact that jealousy occurs within a 6-month-old baby. some studies show that, or we may even as mothers see that in actual case, when the babies express the jealousy, when the mom plays with the baby doll or with someone else, she feels unpleasant in those moments, whereas playing with an object doesn't stimulate the same reaction. So we are actually born with it, and we express it really soon, or early in our lives. And some studies show that the jealousy was also developed between the siblings in a family for fighting for the love of the mother and so on. And also they speak about the jealousy in partnership because of the preservation of the family, where the jealousy had a protective function, for example, for men to protect their own relationship in a way that because they provide food for the family, but they might not know that this is that it's their child who they're protecting, unless if the cheating happens, for example. So when they see the signs of jealousy, and in studies people speak about different ways of jealousies, and that's like emotional jealousy or physical also cheating and emotional cheating, and what's important for men, what's important for women. So we may talk about different ways of expressing it, but what is really important today is about recognizing when and how it occurs within our kind of system, and when we see it in other people, how we recognize. And I think we're going to discuss this. Aleksandra is going to now continue talking about ways when we express these how and in which situations, in which various forms it occurs.
Exactly. Thank you. That was beautiful. So Aleksandra, beautiful segue into the next section, which would be how do we recognize jealousy within ourselves, and then how do we express it? I think these two questions, Aleksandra, please take it away.
Yeah. Well, first of all, when we talk about jealousy and why do we speak about it? We speak about it today here because there's something that could be done. Once you accept and recognize any form of negative feelings, I don't like that negative positive definition or division, but something that is unpleasant for us, something that can be destructive for our relationships, for our happiness, right? In order to change something, we need to truly recognize and admit to ourselves that it comes from jealousy, because most of the times people feel or even claim that it's because they are betrayed or because that something else occurred. Right? So we need to differentiate it. And how do we do that? So how do I know that I'm jealous and that I'm not just being betrayed and I'm right? So let's say this, jealousy is always irrational. So how do we know that we are irrational? Because when someone is jealous, that person does not ask for relief in the sense that it wants his doubts and suspicions to be proved wrong. Right? Because if we're rational, we're open to hear what other side wants to say. We're open to reason. And once we get the information that are not in consistency with our jealousy, our jealous feeling or our suspicion, we will say, oh, okay, that's fine. But when you're jealous, when you're irrational, you do not believe it. You're not asking for facts because that would be logical, right? You're seeking for the evidence that proves you right in being jealous, okay? So jealous people have selective attention to facts. So we pick those, if you're jealous, you will pick those that are supporting your jealousy and your suspicions, and those that are not supporting, you will look at them and try to figure out how those facts are actually not facts, but they're manipulation, right? So basically, person who is jealous, they already made up their minds. So they are accusers and judges, jailers and executors all in once, right? And they see the person that they are jealous of as their enemy. They need to beat in the mind game. So their feelings and attentions and words are hostile, okay? And they see their partner in love, or maybe some other, we are talking about love and partnership tonight, so I'm going to stay on that topic. So they see their partner as somebody who wants to manipulate and deceive them. And no matter how many proofs and facts and, you know, whatever they receive, they will, they even get more furious. So when somebody is rational and when they seek for logic, if they get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 facts that prove them wrong, they will calm down. But if they're irrational, they will get even more frustrated and more irrational, more angry, you know, and they will seek for something to prove their emotion.
I'd like to add up onto that. It's really what we're speaking about. Shakespeare calls jealousy green-eyed monster. And it's really because jealousy behaves in monstrous ways, and it really can. And I was a little bit surprised, not to say shocked, when I found out that jealousy is the 3rd or the 4th, that's what I say, reason for homicide around the world. So this is huge. So this is so important that it should be really addressed as this kind of importance, how big the feeling of jealousy, what it can produce and how destructive it can be. So we're not talking about the extremes today, because we are kind of dealing with our lives and want to improve our lives and to kind of go into another direction. But it's really actually what is not being talked about anywhere is, you know, how to deal with that emotion, how to prevent it from being so destructive. And when you mentioned rational, I thought of a sort of a definition that I really like, and that's about my cognitive version of jealousy would be misuse of imagination. So
that's wonderful.
Really, it's really about, you know, our imagination can go a long way, you know, about every and any situation, depending on our, you know, previous experiences, the childhood, whatever, you know, our belief system. So this is where actually we get to understand how we can deal with it when we differentiate, as Aleksandra said, the irrational part of it, that it's what we are sort of imagining that is happening from what is really happening and what we should act upon. So these where are the barriers to when it's really happening and when we are imagining that something is happening.
Yeah.
Right. And it's incredible. And that connection that you just made, Marijana, that it is 3rd or 4th reason for homicide, that is absolutely huge. And I like the description from Shakespeare, green-eyed monster, and it fits beautifully, even from energy perspective. If we want to talk about energy, we said that jealousy has one of the lowest frequencies. It's close to 50, and on that frequency, almost nothing alive vibrates. That is, so we are talking about
so close to that, right?
Very close, yes. Almost, I think 5 hertz is the difference between jealousy and having that low, no energy at all. And then on that frequency, when we vibrate that low, of course, then we are open. Our consciousness we are not connected to our heart. We are not connected to our higher self. Our consciousness is, I would say, in our legs and in our hands. Sympathetic nervous system is what takes precedence. So we feel attacked, therefore the brain shuts off, and of course we become irrational.
So it's the reptile brain.
Correct.
Reptile brain.
Absolutely. And when we are in that state of a reptile brain, we are very open, honestly, for entities to come in and take and possess and then do take us away, and we go into, God forbid, homicide. We go into a very violent behavior, because then we are like, our aura has no protection when we are on that low frequency. Our door is wide open for any green eye monster to come in and really take us. And then I was also thinking how frequently envy is really presented in green, which would be our next topic as well. How do we recognize or differentiate between jealousy and envy?
Okay.
And are they the same or they're different?
Yeah. I just wanted to say one more sentence about how to recognize jealousy in ourselves or in others. Is like, unlike self-advocacy or self-preservation, in the sense that, you know, I'm standing up for myself in the face of injustice, betrayal, and so forth and so on. A jealous person is victim of her or his own disillusion or illusion, you know, and as such, it feels and sees their partner as perpetrator. It's a victim. I'm a victim of myself, but I see myself as your victim. And if you are doing something, if you're victimizing me, you are my jailer, you are my executor, you are my enemy. So, you know, if you feel that somebody's doing something to you, just take a step back, you know, take a deep breath and feel, you know, see yourself in the moment. See, you know, try to figure out that are things that your partner is saying are making you calmer or more angry. And obviously, if you have the history with this partner, with cheating and betrayal and so on, that is something else. And we're not saying be stupid and be naive. We're just saying, if you do not recognize your irrationality when it's happening, if you do not have this higher self who will say, come on, stop, you know, take a step back and figure this out, you may be taken hostage by this green-eyed monster, and maybe you'll do something that you will not be able to reverse. So, and I'm not obviously talking about homicide and extremes, but I'm talking about losing somebody you love, losing love that you obviously have, and so forth and so on. Okay.
What does it do later on to the relationship when we see our partner as our perpetrator, as a judge, and as our executioner?
Somebody who's victimizing us, right? Who's manipulating us, betraying us, you know, that means that where's love there? So jealousy does not equal love in our countries, in our culture, because once jealousy is there, we do not feel love for our partner anymore. We feel anger, we feel aggression, we want to hurt them back, we want revenge, we want everybody to know this person is bad. Or that's one reaction. The other reaction is we pull back, we are hurt, we are victimized, we are passive aggressive, we just stop conversation, we go into ignoring that person. So either way, we are breaking the connections, we are pulling away from intimacy, and there's no room for love there.
Exactly.
And you're speaking, you're speaking now a lot about these real cases where it can get really, you know, to extremes and to very, you know, toxic, as you said, relationships. But also we may, and all of us have felt it at some point in life through it shows in comparisons, you know, even if we're not expressing it, if we are not saying it out loud, but we are thinking about it in our mind, if we are comparing ourselves to others, and not just to others in a way that but for women especially, it's really kind of there. And I think you will talk about the envy in a way how it's different, but jealousy in that form with women is very specific, you know. and men as well, comparing their bodies, how fit they are, if they're beautiful, if they're smart enough, if they're, good enough at work or wherever in their lives. So we experience this daily. It's not about something happening to someone else. It's not only going into extremes.
Yeah. You're talking about envy now, so I wanted to address that so we can.
And how we actually, they are similar, but they're actually different. And how people who don't really address those emotions, they don't know the difference. So that's why it's important to get the connection of the difference between.
Yeah, exactly. We usually most people use them as synonyms, but there's a clear difference. Jealousy is. We are jealous of something that we feel belongs to us. So that is something of mine, and I'm jealous and I want to protect it. I do not want to share it. So I'm jealous of my husband. I'm jealous of my position in my company. I'm jealous of my status in society. So I'm protecting. I do not want to share this. I do not want to share my partner with other women. So that's jealousy. Envy is something opposite. It's I'm envious of something I do not have. So jealousy, I have something and I believe it's just mine and it's something I do not share. I can share food with you. I will not share my husband with you, right? So, but we do not call it jealousy if it's not irrational. If I do not want to share my husband with you, I'm not jealous. I'm reasonable, right? So if we are irrational in suspicion that somebody is betraying us, our husband with our friend, or so forth and so on, we can be jealous of our friend if we feel that she wants our husband. We can say no, right? Or it can also be said to be, I'm just advocating for myself. I do not want you butting in here. Envy is, I do not have that and I'm envying you. But why do we so often say that it's different or feel that it's the same? Because they go together often. So if my husband is talking to a beautiful girl, I will feel both of those emotions most likely at the same time. So I'm jealous to protect him and I'm envious of her beauty or something that she's saying, or I think she may be smart and she's grabbing his attention. So I'm envious of her and jealous of him, right? And most of the times they are happening at the same time. We can be jealous without being envious. We can be jealous of our husband's relationship with his mother. So we're not envious in the sense that we feel that he's going to be incestful with his mother, but we are jealous because we want his attention, right? We can be envious without being jealous, but I feel
Tatjana, I think you had some examples from your bringing up in childhood. And before you say it, I just want to check, did you, because I'm not seeing the live on your page on the phone, so did you check that it's actually there? Do we have any comments or are people?
I do not see any comments. I only see that we are recording. However, in the beginning, it was recorded that we are live.
I don't think it's actually happening on the Facebook because I can't see it on the phone.
Oh, wow.
I thought you checked it on your Facebook page because I couldn't find it.
I can check on my other phone without interrupting.
I'm checking this and I don't see it going on live right now.
Yeah, I think we're just recording this session and it's not live, unfortunately.
Oh, too bad. Or well,
but we can put it up. Continue.
Yes, and we will just post it then instead of being live.
Okay.
We
So
can just,
all the
post it.
questions that may follow, that may
Yes.
occur afterwards, we will be happy to answer them, because
Yeah, we can
didn't
record little lives on our own, of our own, and share it to your page.
Yes.
With answers. Yeah.
Definitely, that would be wonderful. I don't see it on my other
Yeah.
phone. I also don't see it happening. So Marijana, you're right. However, we will still continue. We will not allow any technical difficulties to stop us talking about a super important topic. And before we go into effects of jealousy and what does it really do to us, primarily, and also what does it do to our relationship. I mentioned my own feeling of jealousy. First time I truly remember being jealous was when I was about 15 years old, and I had my first crush, and that, of course, that guy was the object of my infatuation, and everything he did with anybody else was completely for me very uncomfortable, creating this very uncomfortable feeling, and I could not admit to myself. So it was already embedded in me that jealousy is not good. So then I was trying to rationalize my feelings and interpret. For example, I was jealous of the time that he spends with his sister and his mom and his brother, and they're having breakfast. So nothing is really happening. They're just having breakfast, but I'm not there. And that is huge. And I felt how honored they are to be in his presence and to have breakfast with him while I was, let's say, in another city and not joining them for breakfast. But I remember feeling very uncomfortable, like even on a physical level. I felt like tightness in my neck and shoulders, shortness of breath, even some perspiration happening. So it was truly fascinating, and it lasted for about 6 months, that until later on in kind of we already established different boundaries, as Marijana was saying, but it was very, very difficult for myself. So when we talk about effects of jealousy, it's not just what does it do to a relationship, but primarily what does it do to us?
Exactly.
So Aleksandra, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I was listening to you, and I was thinking, good for you that you outgrew that when you were 15, because I still feel those feelings. You know, when my darling is doing something away, I'm just like, well, I would say envious, not jealous, because I'm not thinking that, you know, he's doing something that I need to protect. You know, he's not doing something that I don't think should not be shared with others. So there's no jealousy, but there's envy. I'm like envious. I want to do, and he says those things too, but we say it out loud. Like the other day, I went with my mom and a friend of mine to this hammam, to steam bath in our city, and he said, "Oh, how about me not going with you?" Because he was at work at that time. So, you know, when you say it and when you are aware of it, and when you're free to express it, when you're not ashamed that you have those feelings, it can be endearing. You're basically saying, I wish I was there with you. And it really depends on how intense and how irrational those feelings are, and if you're free to express them. Because I think that once we express them freely, most of those feelings go away. And if I say I'm jealous, it usually goes away, right? Because when I say I'm jealous, I'm saying something is happening in me, because when I see this, I feel jealousy. I'm not saying you're betraying me, you're doing something, you're bad, you're victimizing me or manipulating me. I'm saying I'm jealous. I'm saying I wish this was not happening. I'm saying I wish your attention was on me rather than on that woman or on that man or your mother, whatever. So once we have this freedom in our relationship to say it, my experience is that both of us feel it, that it's something kind of silly or even endearing, and it just goes away because the other person sees you and says, oh, that is so silly, and you're like, yeah, I'm silly. And it's just, it can be okay. But if we do not recognize it, and then we are blaming somebody else, we're not looking at what it's doing to us and how it is, what is ours in that. You know, where does it come from is a huge question. If I feel that I'm not good enough for you, if I feel that every other woman in your in 20 feet of you is better than me and has this capacity to take you away from me, I should really work on my self-worth, right?
Right. Right. Very good. Very good. And then what would you say? What are really, what is the truest function? Because even when we have, like, if you look at it psychologically, even when we have those challenging emotions, and if we don't see that they are serving us, like in the first place, there is always a secondary benefit to any emotion. So what would it be when it comes to jealousy?
I think victimization. I'm a victim. I'm a victim here. You're doing something to me. You owe me, you know. So passive aggression is kind of there almost all the time. Or active, open aggression, you know, when men are jealous, they're usually using their jealousy to express their aggression openly and freely. You're doing something with me and I will punish you now. There's so many women that are physically abused by jealous husbands, right? And
Correct.
so secondary benefit is my other frustrations. I can, you know, just pour them out to you, and I can, you know, take my revenge on you because I'm your victim. I give myself the right to be bad to you.
Right. Almost like emotional dumping, right? Like to release everything that we are feeling and to direct it at somebody. Would you say manipulation as well, especially in those relationships that kind of operate, I would say on squares, when we have, let's say, Mars in the chart, I see Mars square Venus, or some of those kind of challenging aspects in our chart. I was thinking manipulation as well, because we are using jealousy, making it sound equal to love, and because of love we are making this other person do this or that we want and he or she doesn't want, but because we're jealous, which means we love them so much, they are supposed to do this for us. What do you think?
I feel that Marijana has something to say.
Yeah, absolutely.
She's like,
No, I'm listening. It just brought to my mind some examples of the cases where the function of jealousy may be to reconnect with ourselves in a way that, or reconnect in a relationship with the partner when we sort of kind of start really going different ways, and when women start in long-term relationships, in long marriages for over years and years. There are examples when the situations that produce reactive jealousy can actually, you know, awaken the person to see what they are doing or not doing, or how they're not investing anymore in the relationship. And this is when really the threat of people outside of the relationship is real, because the partners are not getting something out of the relationship. So when this threat appears, this feeling that can be stimulated by the event is something that can really, you know, wake up the person to see, you know, oh, I'm really not doing anything to kind of, you know, work through the relationship, to commit, to give myself, to kind of, be there for someone. So this, jealousy in terms of cheating and in sex especially is something that really stands out, because the sexual disconnection, this is the first question that comes always for the couples therapy, is about, the sexual relationship. And when the cheating comes in, or you say imagination that I said about the cheating, when one person thinks that the other is cheating and he's or she's not, it's actually about that lack of the connection, lack of the intimacy, usually the sex, but lack of intimacy itself. And that intimacy also speaks about the lack of communication, the lack of the connection, which again is just on a surface stimulated and can be stimulated by jealousy, which is why I want to really say that yes, jealousy can have, a certain zest and in a relationship, but the jealousy strategies are never a good function. When you use the jealousy to kind of bring back the partner on to playing the games, the power dynamics in the couple, where one person does it because he's a flirtatious person and behaves in this way, and the partner starts behaving similarly just to draw the attention, it doesn't work well. So we may think of jealousy as an indicator that something may be happening, which may be real, and we may really need to react. We may need to step in to understand that there are some other things going on in a relationship that are shown through this, something has been going on. It doesn't happen overnight that partners start cheating, for example, but jealousy is, or maybe the indicator. So I think that Aleksandra spoke really about the actual ways when jealousy should never be accepted as the mechanisms that serve us. It doesn't serve us well, but it's about recognizing when it occurs and understanding the situation and being reactive to it. So when we do feel it, how do we react? What do we do when we feel the jealousy? That is the main question. Whether in a lot of therapies, people are asked to talk about the past, to see the jealousy patterns in their past. And then they differentiate the present from the past. How we may bring in all those, as you spoke about betrayal or different feelings and the real events, we may bring them from the past into the present, and they may affect and stimulate the jealousy constantly. We may feel it all over again all the time. So this is something that really has to can be healed in different ways of therapy sessions, workshops, and so on. And this is why we're talking about this today, that we can transform and we can work toward, transforming this feeling into something that is productive and good for us.
Yeah,
correct.
thanks.
Yes, beautiful. Beautiful. Aleksandra, you also wanted to add something?
Yeah, I just wanted to say that this is pretty much the intro in our idea about our workshop. How do we work with jealousy is not, first of all, how to recognize it. We already gave you a lot of tools for that end, but then when you recognize it, what then? How do we deal with it? How do we work with it? So we felt that we should make this workshop for everyone who truly wants to go deeper in self-recognition, and because if you feel that you don't feel jealousy or envy, if you are negating it in your own life, you're probably not being true to yourself, because it is something, as Marijana said, that the children feel when they're showing it when they're 6 months old. It's something that is programmed in us through evolution. So we will protect our own rights. So we will protect what we feel belongs to us. And Unlike envy, when we want something that we don't have, we are envious. So envy has its own benefits. When we are envious, we are more likely to work harder on ourselves and say, I want this too. How can I get this? How do I learn? What do I need to practice? You know, how do I have a body like hers? Well, you go to gym, you go to yoga, you know. But if you do not use it as something that will inspire you, if you, when you're envious, you just want to hurt that person or make it her or him somehow not be that, you know, if you start rumors or, you know, do even worse things, then it's truly something that will ruin your life. So the example of you were talking about the examples of second benefits, you know, secondary benefits, and I feel that people manipulate with jealousy in the sense that if I'm your victim, if you did something to me, but I'm so good, I'm not going to leave you, I'm going to forgive you. So once you forgive somebody, you do not actually, what you do is you say this, I am higher. So you elevate yourself above the person that you've forgiven, and then you manipulate with that, I am so good, I've forgiven you. And then we misuse and abuse that position to make this other person feel small and manipulate that person to do things for us that they would not normally do. But what happens then is this person can take so much, you know, there's this limit to what we can take from abuse when we are abused. Even when we wronged someone, there has to be this, you know, when are we even, when this is done, when did I, you know, even a criminal goes to jail and he or she serves her sentence, you know. So we need to say, okay, you wronged me, so you need to give something back. But if there's no limit to what you need to give back, this person will not last in a relationship. So he or she is either going to leave the relationship or repeat the deed.
The same pattern.
So it can compensate again. So this could be the never-ending game, and I've seen it in my practice, and we see it in life. You know, so she keeps on forgiving him, and he keeps on cheating. She's a victim. She has secondary benefit of being a victim. She manipulates him, but in the meantime, they're not a happy couple.
Absolutely. Or even there could be even another underlying game happening. For example, with just to kind of go deeper into the example you gave, he keeps on cheating, she keeps on forgiving, and at the same time, she holds something very valuable to him that she's threatening to take away if he continues to cheat. So then instead of working on a relationship and clearing up what's going on, because really, truly, we never open up ourselves to any other person besides the person that we are in a relationship with, if all our needs are satisfied in that relationship. If our needs are not satisfied in the relationship, then we naturally start looking outside to satisfy those needs, if the communication cannot go and if there is no improvement. Therefore, if there is a threat, I'll take something away from you that you really, really like or love or you're attached to, then this person starts to then go into even deeper manipulation game and hiding game. So the need to the desire to satisfy the need is still there, but it will be even more masked. And even more games are going to be played. And then what really happens? What is this? What is this relationship? What is it made out of? Does it really exist? And if it exists, why?
Yeah. So that's when we work with our clients, we go deeper and say, what is your gain from this? Why, there are women who come and say, why do I always pick those guys? Why do I always? So then we go deeper when we look into the family and look at the self-worth and look at those themes, those sentences that are automatic, and then they recognize in their childhood, I cannot be loved, or all men are so and so. And if she feels this, she looks for men like that so she can, confirm her ideas of man to be true. So she over and over she gets the confirmation, and with that she feels, in a weird way, she feels safe in that world, because that is the world she knows. Everything is okay in the world because men are men and men are pigs and men will cheat, as my father did. And I know this, and my mom was hurt and I am hurt, and this is just the reality of it. So, they cannot believe something they want on a conscience level, on the surface. They say they want a loving, faithful man. But usually when we come to the gist of it, they knew this man cheated on her previous girlfriend, or she even got into the relationship with him by being the one he cheated with, and then she's so surprised. So that's, something that happens a lot. We come in those relationships because we come together in pathology, not in love. So recognizing that, working on that, transitioning that is just so very hard, but so rewarding.
Yes, and it takes a certain amount of courage for sure, and a beautiful, beautiful connection that we connect in pathology, not because of love. And we connect to those partners to actually resolve those traumas that could be inherited either genetically through us, or that we observed happening in our childhood, or that it happened to us. Therefore, we pick the same type of partners, and we just pick up where we stopped in a previous relationship, trying to resolve it. But if we are hiding and pretending that jealousy is love, we will never resolve it. So we will waste entire incarnation maybe on just pretending. Yeah. But we are not advancing as a human being. Yes, Marijana, I'm sorry.
I really wanted to add up, because you mentioned one of the most important things is that belief system, and the jealousy brings up before our eyes brings the attention to our belief system and to our beliefs, and it really can reveal those negative destructive beliefs that we are carrying on in our lives from the childhood. We know how various forms of beliefs are being formed throughout the life, but it's really when this is something, it may be a really good thing. That's maybe the first time when we will see the actual need to work with our beliefs and to build the system that will make us feel good, better, lead our life in a different manner, so on. So sometimes that feeling, the emotion that is not suppressed but rather expressed, can really bring us to seek the attention, to seek the that kind of empowerment, understanding, this support, to go and read or learn about it. So that may be one of the functions, is really, this is not happening for no reason. You got to deal with this. You can't suppress it anymore, because you constantly feel the same way, and it's not a good feeling.
Exactly. Just admitting, as soon as we admit, as soon as the emotion shows up on the surface, we say that it's 50% already resolved. From my perspective, like energy wise looking, I would, as soon as I see a situation like that, I would prescribe or suggest certain essential oils to be used to just kind of bring us back into our vibration and to ground us better, so that there is absence of fear, because we cannot be afraid and love at the same time. So we need to, as soon as we feel grounded, the fear, the level of fear will go down. And then certainly I would look into different flower essences that could also bring us, before even going deeper into cognitive behavioral therapy or into some practical work like you, Marijana, do with your ladies in forest. So I would start with that. But I would like both of you to hear, what do you do when something is acute, when you have a person who feels jealous and she just can't go on with her life like that? What do you do? Marijana, in your workshops, what has been the situation? What do you advise?
Well, yeah, we start from actually, and as you said, recognizing it and really knowing how to express what is happening, what is the situation. And first, to admit that it's really important to say it out loud. If you are saying, I am jealous, instead of you are an idiot, you're an asshole when you're talking to a partner, it's really placing yourself in a position of vulnerability, which is much better way of being heard, of being understood, and of being appreciated and valued, and really working through the emotion that is happening. So it's first about, how do we express it? How do we communicate what is happening to us? The point of view in which we present our feelings may be different, but it's really important to address, this is what we are feeling because of that. And when we do that, when we start to communicate about it, we actually need to understand, connect to our own values. We start from connecting to our value system, to what is really important to us in our lives. And if loyalty, if trust, if intimacy, creativity, time together, fun, whatever is on our list, when we speak about relationships, it's really important to bring to our attention, these are the blocks, the building blocks of our lives, what is really important to us. And it's knowing when the jealousy occurs, that the jealousy is not the standard we want in our life. It's not the emotion that will bring these values in our lives. And it's when we address it to know if the trust is important, and we are not addressing the jealousy in a relationship, but we are suppressing that, we are feeling it. When we are not talking to our partner, that it's irritating us, for example, if he's sending messages to other women on Facebook or flirting with girls on the street, but we suppress it, we are hurting ourselves, because we are hurting our values. We are hurting the value of trust, we are hurting the value of loyalty, and so on. So this is when we really connect to our values, to know why we need to communicate and to talk about this. And how we do it is we actually stimulate discussion of what it means to us and what it means to other person, what the values are of our partner, how he deals with whatever his experiences were, to first connect, to first come to the understanding of why we are in this together, why we are in a relationship. Do we want to continue the relationship? If we are just working with ourselves, with dealing with jealousy, it's about different ways we can, first of all, recognize, write about it, have a diary with jealousy, because a lot of situations will occur in a very new, different situations that we have never been before. So where and when it happens, and how we talk about it, and who we talk about it. As well as anything in life, the emotions are something really like, something we don't learn at school, something we were not really aware of, that it leads our life actually, and that we need to really work with a professional a lot of the times. And Aleksandra has started a series of workshops with emotional detox, which is really important. This is the starting point to talk about the emotions that they are occurring. And then onwards, we create a system, the new system, which integrates our beliefs and sets our boundaries. We know what we want in our relationship, and we know what we don't want, and we need to communicate that. The boundaries are very specific sentences, lines, instructions or rules of a relationship. So we create the rules, and these rules are sometimes created way back in the past and are unconscious, and we need to bring them to a conscious attention. The agreement between the couple is something we need to consciously work on in the present. So every time we set the boundary, we are reestablishing our agreement. We are coming back to where we are now. So we deal from the present moment, and that's really important. And the next steps would be really looking into the situations in our lives, if when the boundaries are set, the situation is repeating or not. And if it is repeating, we go back, we redefine, we talk again, we see why this is happening. So there are various kinds of steps that we can take in our daily lives with ourselves and with the connection in a partnership. But what I really feel obliged to say is that it's not easy to communicate the jealousy to ourselves and on our own. And this is why the professional help is something that is really required to reach the level of understanding of ourselves, why we do what we do, why we behave in a certain way, why we always repeat the same patterns, why we attract the same type of men, as Aleksandra mentioned, why we repeat the same negative or toxic experiences and so on. So we really go back to, I think that the jealousy is the best indicator for, the self-consciousness and the self-growth, and it really gives us platform to work with ourselves, going deeper, discovering, where this is, how we can, transform it, and where our love actually is hidden beneath those feelings we're talking about today. So it's really the energy work, as you mentioned, is really important. Raising the vibration, working with the vibration means really bringing to attention how love can transform jealousy. And that's how I would really end this today, that every situation that occurs that stems from the reactiveness to jealousy, we may transform it into love.
Absolutely. And you mentioned how it's hidden. So you would say that jealousy probably belongs to our shadow side, and it's part of our shadow.
And this is where we discover a lot of the times when we start working with it, we go into that shadow work and dealing with our the part that we are not really, sometimes we are not ready to step into that space of shadow. And sometimes we are not as important to ourselves as our relationship is. So sometimes the jealousy really brings to our attention, or the cheating whatsoever, or something that happens that really hurts badly, brings us back to ourselves, to working with the shadow. This is what happened in my life. I can talk about it for ages, but this is really the trigger point. When that betrayal occurred is how it actually brought me back to myself, and saving myself was the only way to save the relationship. I had to save myself. So really we got to start from ourselves, and then that, so I think that we should thank the feelings, but we should also thank the possibility of working with people and discovering the broader perspective of these feelings.
Yes, you just brought it up to full circle so beautifully, and I'm so happy that you did that. That at the end, it needs to go back to us. It needs to start with us, and every road leads back to us. And if there is any kind of fear present along with jealousy, which definitely is fear of losing a person or something that we have. We are talking about relationships, so they're definitely our partner, losing a partner, then fear and love cannot exist, cannot coexist. So then we need to go deeper and look into their fear, and we need extreme amount of courage to be able to honestly look at that fear, and what does it bring to us, and what are now the tools to work with. And that's why I wanted to also connect it with Aleksandra, because Aleksandra, Marijana, you mentioned there are workshops that Aleksandra leads, and Aleksandra gives us an opportunity to learn different tools, different techniques during those workshops, how we can transform different toxic emotions, but currently we're talking about jealousy, and how then we can take that road of transformation and finally arrive to the point of love. So Aleksandra, could you please just to close it up with a little explanation of what happens in your workshops?
Well, I will be the self-designated keeper of time because we're over the hour. And yeah, my workshops are different topics, as you said, like one of them is jealousy, but I have other workshops, for example, workshops on money. Yeah, there's all sorts of emotions entangled with money. And then neželjena I željena, wanted and unwanted male attention. I think it's a big topic for all of us. First of all, for women who are in the workshops, who are able to express what they want and don't want from men, and then men who are invited to sit on that and hear that, all those men who are saying, we do not understand women. What do they want? Well, come to our workshop. We will tell you. It's not that complicated, you know. It's not. We're not that complex. You're not listening. So all the men who want to know more about that can come to that workshop, and so forth and so on. But what I wanted to say today about jealousy as well is what we will cover on our workshop. Because Marijana so beautifully explained at the end how do we work with emotion of jealousy. But then we will go even deeper and talk about how to set boundaries, because and then we need to talk about how male brain works and how female brain works, because when a woman starts setting boundaries, what men here is there's a minefield. I'm not sure what can I do if she says, when you do this, you hurt me, and when you say this, you hurt me, and when you look this way, you hurt me. And he's just like, you know, most men feel, you know, that they are setting up to fail. And setting boundaries is something that it has to be done very consciously. You know, it's just not just like, oh, I will set boundaries and everything will be okay. We need to understand our partner. We need to hear him on that. He needs to be able to express what he feels about it. And he needs to feel safe that he's not being just set up to fail again and again. And, you know, because I heard this from my partner, he said, I'm hurting you all the time. And I was like, oh my God, no, you're not. He was just like, I need to leave you because I'm hurting you all the time. You know, yeah, because we women are, you know, our brains are working. We can process logical and emotional side simultaneously. We can jump from left side to the right side of our brain like this. And to men, this is logic and this is emotion. So a woman can say, you did not put the seat down on the toilet, you don't love me. And he's like, seat down, logic, love, emotion, you know. So to them,
so connection between these two hemispheres.
Yeah, so to us, to women, it's just so, you know, it's just emotion, logic, it's all incorporated. For them, not. For them, put the seat down because, you know, if you don't do that, I have to put it myself and I don't want to touch the toilet after you. To them, logic. But if you say, if you don't do that, you don't love me and respect me. For them, it's like, it's not that they do not understand you. It's just for them, it's hard to make that connection, and then they feel you're dramatical, hysterical, and then that you're nagging and so forth and so on. So, you know.
I also wanted to ask you before we close for tonight, just to give us an example, what really happens in workshops, if you can explain to us, like, dynamic and logistically what happens in a workshop, and what do we get out of it?
Okay, well, this one, the one that three of us will be so much more than mine, because I will just lead one aspect of it. I will give them some few tools, and then you will talk about oils and so this one will be so much more. But for me, it's like, first of all, is identifying the trigger points. Let's say you are here because you recognize you're jealous. So obviously recognizing your jealousy is the first step. But let's say you recognize you're jealous. We need to recognize, where does it come from? Like, what triggers it? You know, when my husband texts with his ex-girlfriend, when he goes to lunch with her, or when he speaks to his colleagues, or when he speaks to unknown women through Facebook and chats, what triggers it? And then, you know, being able to communicate that to oneself in front of a professional, because we do not want to go and blur all that out to our partner from that sensitive place. But because if we are in a state of mind of jealousy, then we are irrational, right? So we do not want to communicate from that place. We want to come to a workshop or work one-on-one to identify those places, and then go with the attention back on the inside and say, okay, when he does that, this is what is happening inside of me. And then you go inside and you know, check it out. And once you figure that out, you can say, what, you know, we go with the question, what is it like to be jealous for you? And how does it serve you? You know, what are the benefits? What do you get out of it? What does your partner does when you, what does your partner do when you do that? You know, to figure out all the ways, why is this beneficial to you? Because when you find that, you can exchange those benefits for real benefits. These are imaginary. These are short-lived. This is something that at the end will break up your relationship or intimacy.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Beautiful. Yeah, I think that's the point, to understand that we need to replace those secondary benefits with the true benefits that will last us long and that will enhance the relationship. I would say, from energy perspective, when we have two people that are in a relationship, that relationship is the connection, is that third aspect that is happening, and the relationship is holy. The reason they're together is the relationship. So how can we change, how can we transform jealousy to become something, a more of an emotion that is acceptable to us, and hopefully reach the point of love? Because we all know love is always the key, and since we are the keepers of love, we are here to find the key of love and use it to open up this beautiful life and these beautiful relationships for us. So my ladies, thank you so much for staying this late. It has been absolutely a joy. Besides technical difficulties, I think we covered everything that was important to cover in this introductory workshop. And now we are planning, we will definitely go back, we will post the video and we will go back and check all the questions and take it from there, planning when the actual hands-on workshop will take place. But I would say somewhere February or maybe early March.
It was a pleasure. Thank you so much for having us, and we'll be, I'm sure, again, together in the space, in your wonderful
Absolutely.
energy.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. I love you, ladies. I think this is a huge topic. I think we're just starting. We're scratching the surface of something really, really big. So thank you. Good night.
Thank you for
we
inviting
will-
us.
My pleasure, my enormous pleasure. Thank you for your energy, for your expertise. Thank you for your openness to be so flexible. And we will be getting together very soon. Good night.